Welcome to NarrativeNook where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
David rolled his eyes dramatically. You finally grew a conscience? You haven't checked in on your sis for like, what, 6 months? You want her digits? Call me big bro, and I might just think about it. Sean could only sigh, realizing they were totally on the same page when it came to the sisters' matters. He sent a text to Louisa on WhatsApp, and just to be sure, he forwarded the same message to Kenneth. Not long after, 2 texts buzzed in on his phone. Dad, concern over the phone is one thing, but nothing beats showing it in person, kid. Want her number? Go ask her yourself. Mom, we'll talk when you get home. Who knew why he wanted his sister's number? If he went off script like he did just now, describing her as temperamental, he'd tick her off in a heartbeat. Sean's mind wandered back to the last time when he almost recognized his sister, but his buddies threw him off the scent. With that, he texted Hans, with a hint of accusation in his tone. Is sis really that pretty? Do you even have to ask? I remember I asked you last time, and you said you didn't know where to start. She is drop-dead gorgeous, a 1 in a million kind of beauty. Whether we're talking her stunning features, her ethereal vibe, or her mad skills, she's a total head-turner. Her list of pros is a mile long, and wouldn't be covered even if we talk about it all day. Sean blinked. So that's what Hans meant. Did he misunderstand? Next, he confronted Chaucel. Last time, you said Sis's looks were indescribable. Is she that hideous in your eyes? Hideous? Every positive adjective falls short of capturing even a fraction of her beauty. She stands out in a crowd, a total knockout. And it's not just her face, her talents are dazzling too. She's like this glowing gem, and once you get to know her, you realize she's truly special. Indescribable? Yeah, because a single sentence hardly does her justice. Sean was irritated. Why didn't you just say so last time? Man, I was on a mission last time. No time for chit-chat. Plus, why didn't you come home and see her for yourself? What, got a glimpse of her in person and found her prettier than expected? Or was it a photo that caught your eye? Sean didn't bother replying, recalling how Clark had also been vague, probably because he wanted him to see her with his own eyes for the full effect as well. He tried David next, who, when asked about their sister's looks, launched into a rhapsody, showering her with every flattering word under the sun. Easy 800 words worth. Why did you not compliment her last time? Busy with my concert back then, man. Sean had assumed that his brothers thought lowly of their sister's looks, probably unremarkable, not ready for prime time. Oh yeah, you mentioned meeting someone who looked a lot like Sis, a real piece of work. Whatever happened with that? David's memory surprised Sean, who replied curtly, zip it. Don't ever bring that up with Sis around. Okay. David was confused. He hadn't been talking about their actual sister, so why the gag order? But he had bigger fish to fry. With the new year around the corner and the last 3 gigs lined up, he'd soon go home to be by his sister's side. This year, he was skipping every New Year's Eve gig that came his way. In his heart, nothing was more important than spending time with Sis. After parting with friends, Arabella and Romeo left, leaving the coffee shop with 2 lovesick souls. Grab a drink somewhere? Once alone, Timothy felt his hidden emotions bubble to the surface like air escaping a deflating balloon. Let's hit up that club I own. We're not calling it a night until we're absolutely sloshed. Derek needed the alcohol's numbness, too. You look like you've been dumped, man. Timothy was down in the dumps himself and couldn't fathom why his buddy seemed even more out of it. To someone unknown to the situation, they'd both look like they'd just been kicked to the curb. I gotta admit, I found out the actress I like is taken, Derek confessed, downing his coffee like it was a shot of whiskey, while feeling his mood hitting rock bottom. What a coincidence. The race car driver I'm into is also off the market. Timothy gulped down another cup of coffee in one go. Looks like we both got our hearts broken today, huh? Not just that, we've been watching our best bud to show his affection towards his fiancée. They gave each other a sympathetic pat on the back and offered each other words of comfort. There are plenty of fish in the sea, Derek said with attempted nonchalance. But Timothy knew in his heart that the fish he wanted was the rarest and most beautiful in the world. Once it's caught, there's no way to find another one just like it. Don't sweat it too much. You'll find someone even better. Despite his words, Derek knew deep down that no girl could ever measure up to the incomparable Arabella. The two friends sat there, feeling even more downcast, silently sighing before clinking their coffee cups together, drowning their sorrows in one long sip. After Romeo brought Arabella back to the hotel and closed the door, he immediately confronted her with concern. "I had no idea you won that underground race." Arabella looked up with her bright eyes and asked, "Timothy told you?" So that's why Romeo had suddenly looked at her in the coffee shop. If I hadn't asked, he wouldn't have said a word. Do you realize how dangerous those underground races are? They're not official tracks, and there are no fair referees. It's all down to personal honor. And some people have got no conscience. What if you run into someone like that and get hurt? "I'll be fine," Arabella assured him. "For them, it's just a hobby, but for me, it's different." "How so?" Romeo pressed on, gazing into her eyes. "I started racing to protect myself. If it weren't for the need to escape her pursuers, she wouldn't have developed such driving skills, let alone stepped in to race for Ophelia." Hearing this, Romeo was filled with compassion. He couldn't help but kiss her soft lips, and with a sad touch to her face, he murmured, "I wish I had been there sooner." If he had been there, he could have shielded her and kept all harm at bay for her. He couldn't stand the thought of all the hardship she had endured in that unforgiving world. "If it was too dangerous, Ophelia wouldn't let me race. She's my best friend," Arabella comforted him in turn. "If her leg hadn't been injured and in need of rest, I would have loved for you to meet her, though you've seen her on video before." But meeting each other's friends face to face, like what they did today, was a different experience. Visiting Ophelia wasn't practical for them, as she lived alone and was barely able to walk. They knew pretty well that if they went to her house, she would insist on playing the hostess, which wouldn't be good for her recovery. "We'll have a chance in the future," Romeo said softly while caressing her cheek. At that time her phone rang. It was Horace. "Go ahead, I'll get you something to eat." He had brought her favorite snacks to Belloria and packed them in his suitcase. In order to give her privacy and trust, Romeo didn't linger to overhear their conversation. Instead, he walked away to fetch the treats. Watching his tall figure move aside, Arabella felt her heart warmed even more. She took out her phone and glided over the screen with her fingers. "Boss, this Sean guy looks sharp, but why is his signature so messy? Can't even make out his name." Horace's voice came through from the other end. When Arabella left the hospital, she handed the island sale agreement Sean had signed straight to Horace without even glancing at it. The name of the other party meant nothing to her. "What's up?" Arabella cut to the chase. "I've sent some guys to the island to clear out the weeds and stuff, but there are some plants my crew can't identify. I can't tell if they're weeds or herbs either. I've taken pictures and sent them to your email. I'll check it out in a bit. Also, we've calculated the area planted with herbs and that yet to be planted, and also figured out the sunlight exposure, soil composition, air humidity, and overall weather patterns. I've made spreadsheets of all these data and sent them to you." Arabella was surprised by his efficiency. "Good work," she said with a tinge of appreciation. "It's no trouble at all. Working with you these past days has been invigorating. I'm doing what I love. Plus, I've been in touch with Jack. He said he's just waiting for your go-ahead, and he'll personally transport the herbs we need to plant here. I'll give him a timeline soon." "There's something else." Horace continued with another update. "Just as what you predicted, the surveillance cameras near the auction house on the night of Sam's death were tampered with to different degrees. They need your touch to be restored. I've sent the files to your email." "All right, I'll handle it now." After ending the call, Arabella pulled out her laptop and told Romeo, "I've got some work to do, you take a break." Romeo placed an assortment of snacks in front of her, watching her slender fingers flying over the keyboard, typing a rapid succession of characters. "Restoring surveillance? Let me do it." Romeo offered, "Have a bite and rest." Arabella recalled the last time they teamed up to crack Carol's computer firewall. Romeo's hacking skills were beyond question. She handed him the laptop without hesitation. Romeo took the laptop, settled on the couch to retrieve the data, while massaging her feet rested on his lap occasionally. His gaze was locked on the screen as his fingers danced on the keyboard. Arabella lounged on the couch, with her legs casually draped over his, and nibbled snacks from the bag, while passing him a piece from time to time. With this, Romeo's motivation soared. In no time, he had the surveillance restored and awaited her praise. "Quick work. With my fiancé watching, I've got to show off a bit." Romeo enjoyed the snack she handed him, with a look of contentment on his face. Arabella forwarded the surveillance to Horace, who nearly dropped his face mask in shock. "Boss, you're way too fast. I was just doing a face mask, and I'm not even done yet." "What's a big guy like you doing with a face mask?" Arabella teased in her message. "Men need skincare too. Hold on, I'll call you back." Horace continued his skincare routine while digging into the mystery of the black car and the person who shot Sam. Arabella knew that the results would come soon, so she discussed with Romeo, "I might need to step out tonight or tomorrow for some business. I'll have people with me, it's not dangerous. You wait for me at the hotel." "Can I trust your people? They're loyal." "Then call me if you need help." In Belloria, he had a network of influence hidden in the shadows, known to almost no one. When necessary, they could quietly work for her and give her the extra push she needs. After a while, Horace rang up. "Hey Hans, I got some intel. The guy who popped Sam was called Viper. He's a regular at the Gentleman's Club, who usually shows up on Wednesday or Friday nights. Sometimes he carries a bag with him, which was puffed up before he goes in, but deflated when he leaves. Looks like he's making some shady deals. Can you dig up a list of the usual suspects at the club when Viper is in attendance?" "Sure thing." After Horace gave his report, he added, "Look boss, Viper skipped his club visit last week and didn't show up this past Wednesday. It's Friday tonight. Maybe we hit the jackpot if we swing by." "Let's do it." "Alright, I'll swing by to pick you up at 7. After hanging up, Arabella told Romeo she had to step out for the night and suggested he hang out with some buddies. "I'll just wait for you at the hotel." He had just met with friends earlier that day and felt not in the mood for more socializing. He preferred to wait for her at the hotel, ready to lend a hand if needed. As the clock neared 7, Romeo wanted to ask her about her plans, about how many of her crew would be with her, and whether they were up against a big group, but he feared prying too much would upset her. Seeing that he tried to speak several times but stopped, while frequently checking the time, clearly reluctant to see her go, Arabella couldn't help but smile at his concern. "Don't worry, it's just a little apprehension." With her skills, she wasn't the one who should be worried. "When do you think you'll be back? I'll order some late-night snacks for us." Romeo reached out to touch her face. Even knowing her capabilities, he couldn't help but worry about her every time she stepped out on a job. "If I'm not back by midnight, go ahead and get some sleep." "Is the target that tough to catch?" "Not tough, just there are a lot of unknowns, like it's not clear if that guy will show up tonight, and whether he'll meet with his cronies. If he's planning to hit a spot, we might get a lead on their hideout, maybe even the big fish behind it all. If that happens, I might not be back so soon." Romeo's eyes dimmed at the thought, as the danger she might face weighed on him. Right then, a rapid knock on the door broke the tension. "I'll get it," Romeo volunteered, "go get changed." She always switched into casual wear for her outings, tying her long hair up into a bun. As the door swung open, the person outside blurted out, "Boss." Seemingly caught off guard by Romeo answering the door, Horace paused, with his eyes widening, as he saw Romeo in his white robe and figured he probably lived here. Horace's eyes bulged as he peered around, but he didn't spot his boss. What was going on here? Had they just been? "Come in," Romeo said, making a commanding presence despite his politeness. Horace hesitated and was clearly intimidated. They had been introduced over video before, but seeing Romeo in person was something else. Romeo had quite the aura. Spotting no sign of his boss in the living room, Horace couldn't help but say, "Mr. Macmillan, I came to pick up my boss." "She's changing." Romeo gestured for him to take a seat, What'll you have?" "Nothing for me, thanks." Horace swallowed hard, not daring to have Romeo wait on him. He quickly added, "I grabbed something on the way over." "You're joining Bella on her job tonight?" Even so, Romeo poured him a cup of coffee. Horace stood up quickly, taking the cup with both hands and profusely thanking him. Oh man, this was coffee poured by Romeo himself, brought over by his own hands. If it weren't for his boss, he never would have believed he'd be treated like this. She was treading carefully, not wanting to spook anyone. "So she only brought me along. But rest assured, Mr. Macmillan, I'd lay down my life to protect her." "Both of you come back in one piece, you hear it?" "Absolutely," Horace replied, and soon realized he'd started to think of Romeo as his boss, as he answered him with such ease. Just then, Arabella emerged, all dressed and ready. Romeo poured her a cup of coffee and handed it over. "It's nippy out there. Have some coffee to warm up before you go." Arabella looked at Horace, who quickly mouthed, "I didn't spill anything." After she finished her coffee, Romeo added, "If you need anything while you're out, just holler for me." "Will do." Arabella, not wanting him to wait up, said, "If I'm not back by midnight, don't wait up. Just hit the hay." "Okay." Romeo tousled her hair gently. "Be safe." With a nod to Horace, Arabella indicated it was time to leave. Horace stood up immediately. "Mr. Macmillan, we should head out." As he caught Romeo's worried and reluctant gaze, Horace reassured him, "Don't worry, I've got her back." With a nod, Romeo saw them to the door. Down the long corridor, Arabella's cool and determined silhouette grew distant. Horace kept glancing back, and as they waited for the elevator, he could see Romeo still standing at the door and watching them. "Boss, you sure you don't want to have a word with Mr. Macmillan? He seems kinda torn up about you leaving." Arabella glanced back, only to see Romeo give a little wave before he dutifully went back inside. "Let's focus on the task at hand." They took the elevator down and got into the car. Remembering Romeo's anxiousness throughout the day, Arabella pulled out her phone and shot him a message on WhatsApp. "Don't worry." It was short and sweet, typical Arabella, but she ended it with a comforting pat on the head emoji. Romeo, who had been in a funk, instantly felt his spirits lift. His Bella knew he was worried. She was comforting him in return. And she patted his head. Romeo was overjoyed, firing back a kiss emoji, a memento from a kiss they shared long ago, which he'd turned into a sticker. Arabella's lips curved into a smile. Horace didn't park at the Gentleman Club parking lot. Instead, he parked on the street and helped. Arabella opened the car door. "Boss, I left the car here. If things go south, we'll take a route without surveillance. I've mapped out our escape plan." Arabella was impressed by his efficiency, a promising talent worth nurturing. Horace flashed a golden card at Arabella, with an eyebrow raised. "A club membership card? How'd you get this?" "I got it from an old-timer member." Horace had pulled a lot of strings for Arabella, and therefore got to know some folks who owed him favors. Scoring a card like this wasn't a big deal. "It's just on loan though. Gotta return it later." With that, Horace led Arabella towards the club. The club's entrance was manned by 4 male and 4 female staff, lined up to welcome guests. As Horace and Arabella ascended the steps, the staff exchanged curious glances. They were evidently unfamiliar with these new faces. "Gentleman Club extends a warm welcome to you both," they greeted. Though puzzlement lined the faces of the 8 employees, they all bent over in a synchronized gesture of respect as the couple approached. When Arabella and Horace reached the bottom of the grand staircase, a massive golden archway blocked their path. This club had a strict policy: only members were granted the access to enter. Newbies without an old member to vouch for them had no chance of getting through these doors. Horace pulled out his premium card and swiped it before the door opened slowly, which dissolved the employees' confusion. So, they were indeed members. It was their mistake for not recognizing them earlier. Luckily, the guests hadn't noticed it. Stepping inside, they found themselves in a dimly lit lobby, with 6 elevators ready to whisk patrons upstairs. The ambience was reminiscent of a lounge bar, yet it was eerily quiet for such a space. Under the influence of alcohol, Some couples were scattered across the lobby, flirting and getting handsy with each other. Some men boldly touched their female companions, others were locked in passionate kisses, and a few were even starting to disrobe. Horace quickly shielded Arabella's eyes without touching her, out of concern that the scene might soil her view of the world. His hands formed a barrier on either side of her. The second floor housed the bar, while the third to sixth floors were reserved for private booths. "Boss, let's check out the second floor first." Horace pressed the button for the second floor. When they reached it, the elevator doors slid open, and a wall of rock music hit them. Horace couldn't help but frown at the sheer volume. It was deafening. A band was giving their all on stage, and below them, the crowd was jumping and dancing, each person lost in their own world. Horace guided Arabella to a quieter corner with a table, concerned that she might be overwhelmed by the crowd. After a waiter approached, Horace ordered a couple of mojitos, and then signaled to his phone and texted Arabella, "Boss, it's too noisy to talk here. I'm using WhatsApp. A buddy of mine hacked the club's surveillance system. If Viper shows up, he'll let us know." Arabella nodded and took a sip from the mojito the waiter had brought over. Despite her casual attire and bun hairstyle, Arabella's beauty was undeniable, drawing the attention of many. Soon, a man dancing his way toward Arabella was met with Horace's fierce glare, one that seemed ready to start a brawl. The man hurriedly backed off. A while later, a scar-faced man flanked by his cronies approached, undeterred by Horace and seemingly looking to provoke him. As the waiter served the fruits, Horace slammed his fist down, not just shattering the fruits but cracking the bowl itself. The scar-faced man and his lackeys swallowed hard, realizing they'd underestimated Horace's strength. After finishing his mojito, Horace stood up with the empty glass in hand, and the unwanted guests quickly scattered. With the loud environment around them, Horace had to yell to Arabella, "Those losers. They should take a good look in the mirror. Did they really think they stand a chance with his boss? Did they think they're even in her league?" Arabella smiled, relieved to see the once timid and shy Horace had truly grown up. Just then, one of Horace's men reported, "Viper has arrived." Horace gave Arabella a knowing look. Both of them glanced occasionally towards the entrance, but 1 minute passed, then 2. Viper was still nowhere to be seen. Horace messaged his man again, "Are you sure Viper came in?" "Right, he went in like 2 minutes ago. Didn't you catch that?" Horace handed his phone to Arabella, who stood up to leave the bustling pub. Horace scrambled to keep pace with her swift strides. The second floor was a lively bar, but the floors above were a maze of private party rooms. As they left the raucous atmosphere of the bar, Horace's ears finally got some relief. He quickly asked Arabella, "Do you reckon he might have slipped into one of the private rooms? With so many rooms to search through, it could take forever. And they risked tipping him off." "Let's head up and see," Arabella said, opting for the fire escape instead of the elevator. As she pushed open the door to the stairwell, they heard a clatter from above. Something or someone had taken a tumble. They trod lightly and intended to creep upward, when they heard a hoarse cry for help echo down the staircase. Arabella hastened her steps, with Horace panting behind. The gap between them widened. She was just too fast. It didn't take long before they reached the 6th floor. In the hallway, they found a man with a buzz cut and a menacing stare clutching a rope tightly around the neck of someone they called Viper. 2 others, one in black and the other in gray, held down Viper's limbs, preventing any struggle. Arabella delivered a swift kick, and with the rope loosened, Viper gasped for air, his face flushed crimson from the near strangulation. "Who the hell are you?" the buzzcut man demanded, eyeing Arabella with clear hostility. The others, sensing a threat, glared at Arabella with murderous intent. "Hold up, boss," Horace called as he finally made it up, but the man in black was already dialing for backup. "We got trouble." Meanwhile, Viper tried to make an escape through a window, but Arabella yanked him back into the fray. Buzzcut lunged to grab her, but before Horace could even step in to assist, the stairwell door burst open and reinforcements flooded in. Outnumbered, Viper made a break for the rooftop. Horace wanted to give chase, but seeing Arabella taking on so many alone, he had no choice but to step in and help. "Go after him, don't worry about me," Arabella grunted, kicking one man clean off his feet and sweeping another into the crowd. She used the railing to deliver a few well-aimed kicks, then pulled Horace behind her, urging him to go up. Horace had no option but to pursue Viper. As others tried to follow onto the rooftop, Arabella knocked them down one by one, guarding the staircase and blocking their path. Some realized they were no match for Arabella and quietly retreated, opting for another staircase to the roof. There were 2 staircases to the rooftop, one at the corridor's beginning, the other at its end. Viper reached the rooftop and ran to another staircase for escape, only to be tripped up by another group that had arrived. Horace dashed into the fray, trading blows with the newcomers. With the crowd against him growing, Viper made a desperate move to the edge of the roof, ready to jump. "Don't do it. I'm not like them." Horace tried to get to him, but the encircling foes were too many. Before he could break free, Viper had leapt from the edge. "Hey!" Horace dropped a few more attackers and rushed to the edge, only to see that Viper had landed on a balcony of the 6th-floor private room. Not missing a beat, Viper scaled the railing and jumped to another balcony 1 floor below. Horace had no choice but to follow suit, tracing Viper's path. The rest, unwilling to be outdone, also followed suit and leaped onto the balconies in pursuit. As Viper landed on the 4th-floor balcony, he felt the pain from his wounds became unbearable. He had been stabbed twice, and blood had soaked through his pants, now dripping onto the ground. After Arabella knocked out everyone in the stairwell, she sprinted to the rooftop only to discover that someone had taken a dive. Rushing over, she saw about 7 or 8 people had leapt down to the balcony of a 6th-floor VIP room, then down to the 5th, where they had joined in a scuffle with Horace. On the 4th-floor balcony, Viper was slumped on the ground, his left leg bleeding profusely. Even though he fought to stand, leaning on the railing, his left leg betrayed him. Many chased after Viper. He knew death was closing in, fear forcing him to shuffle backward. One assailant kicked viciously at the wound on Viper's leg, another wrapped his hands tightly around his throat, and 2 more took out knives, stabbing at him. They were trying to silence him for good. Arabella moved with lightning speed, jumping down to the 6th-floor balcony, then to the 5th. Across the way in a high-end club, 2 heartbroken young gents were drinking. Standing by the window, clinking glasses and sipping whiskey, they were far from over their breakups when they caught sight of a girl, light as a feather, hopping down floor by floor. "Is that?" Timothy rubbed his eyes, suspecting the booze was playing tricks on him. Derek was stunned, pulling Timothy closer and asking, "Is that Romeo's fiancée, Arabella?" "You think so too?" "Think so? I'm almost sure it's her. That figure, that presence. Who else could it be?" Although there was a distance and they couldn't see her features clearly, that familiar feeling. No doubt it was her. What was she doing out this late? They watched as she landed on one of the 4th-floor balconies, swiftly taking down 2 knife-wielding attackers before agilely engaging others. "Is she fighting?" Derek gaped. "No, it's more like murder." Someone had just been stabbed, collapsing against the balcony railing, their body still twitching. What was going on? Was it Arabella's people getting hurt? Or was Arabella just stepping in to play the hero? From their vantage point, they could see people spilling out onto many balconies, all heading in Arabella's direction. "This is bad. Call Romeo, I'll get the club's security to back her up." With that, Timothy was off and running. The club was his, and he had dozens of security staff at his beck and call. Derek, still in a daze, fumbled with his shaking hands to get his phone out and dialed Romeo's number. "Romeo, your fiancée's in trouble. Lots of people are chasing her." "Is she hurt?" "No. She's laid out a bunch of them. You should see her in action." Derek was astonished. Wasn't his fiancée supposed to be timid and gentle? She didn't seem the part at all. Romeo was relieved to hear Arabella was unscathed. "Romeo." Derek's voice suddenly spiked, laced with disbelief. "Your fiancée, she's doing it again. She just jumped from the 6th-floor balcony to the 5th, and then from the 5th to the 4th. Now she's just hopping all the way down to ground level." If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he'd swear it was a scene from an action movie. "Stop. I don't want to know," Romeo cut in abruptly. "She might think I'm spying on her." "But you..." How could he be so calm when his fiancée was in such danger? Wasn't he the least bit anxious? Stay out of it, Romeo said. He didn't want Derek to become a burden to Bella. Act like you saw nothing. With that, Romeo hung up. Derek stood there, mind racing with a myriad of questions. What in the world was going on? At the coffee shop back then, Romeo and Arabella were inseparable, with eyes only for each other. But now, danger was knocking at the girl's door, and as her fiancé, how could he stay so calm? The thing was, these people looked a lot like professional killers. What if something happened to Arabella? And there was that guy who got stabbed and was covered in blood. It seemed like Arabella had gotten tangled up in some messy affair. Derek felt he had to go check on her. Rushing downstairs, Derek found Timothy and a bunch of security guards standing around like lost sheep, the place cleared out. Where's Arabella? Derek approached, his voice laced with urgency. I got here just in time to see her and her crew drive off. They were actually chasing those other guys. The people scattered in all directions, leaving just a few leaders. Arabella and her companion went to chase after them. Derek glanced at the fourth-floor balcony, where the blood-soaked man still lay slumped against the railing, motionless. What on earth was going on? How had Arabella gotten involved in such a horrific situation? Did she have some secret identity they didn't know about? Why are we chasing that car ahead, boss? Horace pushed the gas pedal to the floor, but was puzzled as to why Arabella wasn't calling it quits, especially since they had already taken out the Viper. If it weren't for those jerks surrounding him, he would have leapt to the fourth floor to save Viper himself, instead of watching helplessly as he was stabbed to death. With his dying breath, he pointed to that guy with the buzz cut and told me 2 words, Tower Bay. Tower Bay? That's been a derelict building site for years. There was this big-shot developer who planned to build a fancy residential area, complete with an agreement with the local government to plant oak trees, improve the sidewalks, invest in hot springs, and the like. They said it was all set, but the developer went bankrupt halfway through the construction. And so the building became a derelict site. As Horace shared this, he couldn't help but speculate, could it be that with his last breath, Viper had a change of heart, wanting to tell us that those guys, including the buzzcut, have their hideout in Tower Bay? Quite possible. That's why Arabella wanted to follow them. Boss. Horace glanced at the street sign. The direction they're headed looks like Tower Bay. Stay on them. The white car ahead was fleeing frantically on the nighttime road, like someone running for their life. Horace pursued relentlessly, refusing to let up. The chase led them down a desolate street, with a dead end ahead. On the left was the half-built derelict high-rise, and on the right were rows of large trees. Horace followed them into the derelict building's parking lot, only to find their car had disappeared, the sound of their engine gone. Apart from the light from Horace's car, the surroundings were pitch black, giving him the creeps. Boss. Before Horace could utter a word, Arabella issued a command, pull out. Before Horace could react, the roaring engines of dozens of cars surrounded them, trapping them in a ring of blinding headlights. People got out of their cars, weapons in hand. Just as Horace was about to step on the gas, something heavy slammed onto the roof of his car. Taking a glance, the entire car seemed to have been lifted off the ground. Jump. Arabella opened the door and leaped out, with Horace scrambling to follow her. Their car was hoisted high and then dropped, smashing to the ground. Boss. Arabella quickly pulled him aside to take cover. As their car crashed down, shattering glass with a loud bang and sending shards flying, Arabella caught sight of a person stepping out from the crowd. It was Martha. Everyone made way as Martha strode up to Arabella with deliberate ease. She was no longer the former servant in the Collins family's uniform, but rather sported a sleek short haircut, wearing leather jackets and pants, giving off a bit of a bossy assassin vibe. A chilly smile played across Martha's lips as she towered over Arabella, her gaze laced with malice. Surprised, are you? In Arabella's memory, Martha was the epitome of loyalty, a servant who would cry out in pain from a mere stumble, or weep profusely, begging for forgiveness for any minor transgression. But the woman before her bore an enormous contrast to the old servant etched in her recollection. Horace, clueless about this enigmatic older woman's identity, could only sense an underlying vendetta between her and Arabella. So, are all these your guys? Arabella rose to her feet, a nonchalant smirk curving her lips, seemingly unfazed by the looming threat, and asked casually, "Who are you working for? Do you think you're entitled to that information? All you need to know is that now you're in my clutches, and I'll make you beg for mercy and crave death." Martha's laughter echoed like a specter from hell, chilling to the bone in the dead of night. Around them, more than 20 cars formed a tight circle, completely trapping Arabella and Horace within. Martha has over 100 henchmen, all armed and aimed at them. Any slight move from them and they'd be riddled with bullets in an instant. Horace felt the tension rising within him, his eyes instinctively searching for Arabella. He was about to measure the situation and follow her in a desperate breakout when he saw her casually raise both hands in a gesture of surrender. Horace's eyes widened in shock. Was this something his boss would do? Back in the infamous triangular zone, amidst perilous chaos, Arabella had fought tooth and nail, refusing to surrender, ultimately carving a bloody path to safety. Yet now, without a single shot fired, she was throwing in the towel. Had he been mistaken? The night was shattered by Martha's shrill laughter as Arabella raised her hands in surrender. "Arabella, Arabella, who would have thought you'd end up like this? Well, at least you've got some sense," Martha said, clearly delighted by Arabella's capitulation, her laughter betraying her elation. "No matter how swift you are, can you outrun a bullet? You're Dr. Bell, with a knack for detecting any drug." Pacing before Arabella, Martha continued, "But alas, your skills made you quite the catch. So you resorted to underhanded tactics, didn't you? Nora suddenly having a heart attack while flying me to Dawnstar, the mysterious figure at the mountaintop restaurant, the billboard that nearly crushed me, the slander against ARBL Clear Group's skincare line, the lip-syncing scandal. Did you orchestrate all that?" "Sharp as ever," said Martha, her gaze tinged with pity and faux sympathy. "Too bad, you'll be dying by my hand soon. Hand over everything you've got, phones, weapons, the works. Otherwise, if my people find anything during their search, you'll be skinned alive." Her laughter was both sinister and sly. Arabella tossed her phone and a folding pocket knife onto the ground. Seeing Arabella comply, Horace decided to empty his pockets as well, throwing everything, including his watch, at Martha's feet. Martha signaled to her subordinates with a glance, and promptly a man and a woman stepped forward to frisk them. After a while, they returned, having found nothing.
If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.